Good day, mates. Welcome back to Unpopular Aussie Opinions, the spot where we sling the straight-shooting takes on our sunburnt country sporting scene that leave the fair-weather fans fumbling for their thermos. I am your host, the one with the chin out and the opinions unchained, and today we are chewing the fat on a bombshell that has the rugby league world reeling like a punch-drunk pugilist after a Sunday session. Craig Bellamy, that iron-fisted maestro who has moulded the Melbourne Storm into a purple powerhouse for over 2 decades, has been shown the door by Chief Executive Officer Justin Rodski. Yes, you heard it right. The man who has hoisted 3 premiership cups, navigated salary cap scandals, and turned AAMI Park into a fortress of fear has been axed just days after the heartbreaking grand final loss to the Brisbane Broncos. But hold on to your acubras, because we are not stopping at the headlines. This sacking drops like a thunderclap amid whispers of a toxic dressing room, departing stars, and a club at a crossroads, with Bellamy's exit feeling less like a clean break and more like a chainsaw through the heart of Storm Nation. My unpopular opinion on the whole schmozzle? It is a gutless gutting that reeks of corporate short-sightedness, proof that even the mightiest oaks can be felled by boardroom suits who mistake trophies for turnstiles. Buckle up, because we are dissecting this dismissal, the tears in Melbourne, the cheers from the Broncos faithful, and why Bellamy's firing is the cautionary tale our game needs to hear before it chokes on its own ambition. Let us kick off with the Bellamy saga, because fair dinkum, it is the sacking of the season that has even the most grizzled journo perking up like a kelpie spotting a tennis ball. Just this week, on a drizzly Tuesday morning that smelled like regret and rain-soaked Guernseys, the Storm's inner sanctum erupted into chaos. Reports from the coalface, the likes of Michael Chalmers and his NRL grapevine, reckon Rodski, that polished suit with a ledger for a heart, called Bellamy into a closed-door huddle at the club's headquarters. No fanfare, no farewell lap, just a curt handshake and a one-way ticket out of the coaching box. After 23 seasons at the helm, 600 games of grind, and a win-loss record that would make lesser men weep, Bellamy was unceremoniously turfed. The official line? A need for fresh direction after back-to-back grand final heartbreaks, with a 26-22 thriller against the Broncos on October 5th serving as the final straw. Melbourne led 22-12 at the break, only to watch Walsh weave his wizardry and snatch the Clive Churchill medal while the purple jerseys wilted like week-old lettuce. Rodski, ever the diplomat, issued a statement praising Bellamy's immense legacy, but hinting at a club at a crossroads. Whatever that corporate gobbledygook means when your coach is the bloke who built the bloody road. But why now? Why Rodski's hammer? Whispers from the wings paint a picture of a perfect storm, pun intended, brewing in the purple corridors. Bellamy, at 67, has been the glue holding a fracturing Storm side together through premiership highs, injury hells, and off-field dramas that would make a neighbour scriptwriter blush. Remember 2020? That bubble-bound miracle where he steered the boys to silverware amid COVID chaos, turning isolation into inspiration. Or 2017, when the salary cap scars were still fresh, and Bellamy rebuilt from the rubble like a phoenix in footy shorts. The man is a legend, mates, 7 Dally M Coach of the Year nods, 22 final series in 23 seasons, and a culture so ironclad it has outlasted dynasties up north. Yet, here we are, with Rodski wielding the axe after one slip-up too many. Sources close to the club, and let us be clear, these are the blokes nursing stubbies in the shadows, say it boils down to burnout and boardroom bucks. Bellamy's methods, once hailed as genius, are now labelled stale by the bean counters. The grand final loss exposed cracks, a goal line defence leakier than a dunny at a music festival, reshuffles gone wrong after Jack Howarth's early groin tweak, and a second-half fade that echoed last year's Panthers pasting. Rodski, appointed CEO in 2021 after cutting his teeth at Essendon, has been pushing for innovation, code for more corporate tie-ins, bigger memberships, and a shiny new era that smells suspiciously like chasing the NRL's expanding TV dollars. At a club where loyalty was once gospel, Bellamy's long reign suddenly became a liability. Fair dinkum, it is like sacking Don Bradman for a bad net session. Of course, not everyone is raising a stubby to this news. Storm fans are howling like dingoes at dawn. Social media is a war zone of broken hearts, conspiracy theories, and calls for Rodski's head on a pike. Traitor in a tie, cry the diehards who have inked Bellamy's name on their biceps next to Cameron Smith's. The club's cursed without belly, wail the optimists clinging to 2012's ghost, when he dragged them back from salary cap purgatory to minor premiers. And fair enough, Bellamy is their talisman, the no-nonsense New South Welshman who turned a Victorian rugby backwater into a league locomotive. Under his watch, the Storm have missed the finals just once, that 2010 debacle, and even then, they would have snuck in 5th without the penalties. He has nurtured stars like Billy Slater, Cooper Cronk, and Cameron Munster, turning raw talent into premiership gold. But here is my first unpopular swing. Good riddance to the board if they think Bellamy's boot camp is the problem. The real rot? A roster riddled with whispers of discontent. Nelson Asafa-Solomona's attitude issues. That gentle giant who has been benched more times than a park bench at the MCG. Jonah Pezzett and Tyron Wishart, those boom youngsters, are already fielding calls from rivals sniffing for a poach. And let us not forget Grant Anderson, the unsung backline hero who scooped most improved player at the end of season 2, only to bolt to the Broncos, the very mob that just pinched their premiership. Bellamy copped the blame for benching him in the prelim and decider. But was it coaching caution or a sign of deeper fractures? The dressing room, once a fortress, now feels like a leaky boat, with players leaking to the press about stale vibes and a coach who demands too much from bodies pushed to the brink. Zooming out, this sacking is not just a storm story. It is a seismic shift for rugby league soul. Rodski's move screams of a game chasing its tail, desperate to grow in the southern states while bleeding talent up north. Melbourne, the purple pioneers who dragged NRL south in 1998, now face their toughest rebuild since the inception. Bellamy's exit leaves a void wider than the Yarra at flood time. Who steps in? Wayne Bennett, that evergreen wizard, is tied to the Dolphins till 2026. Des Hasler. Too prickly after his Manly meltdown. And do not get me started on imports from the Super League. That is like swapping a steak for a soggy pie. Rodski, with his media polish and Essendon baggage, fancies himself a visionary. Remember his gushing praise for Bellamy's 600th game back in August, calling for a statue at Melbourne Park? Now, that same suit pulls the pin. It reeks of hypocrisy, mates, a CEO more wedded to spreadsheets than silverware. Under Rodski, memberships have ballooned, commercial deals have sparkled, but the on-field edge? Dulled like a butcher's knife after a long shift. The grand final loss was agonizing, leading by 10, only for Walsh's magic to turn the tide. Eli Katoa's late break nearly stole it, but Trent Loiera's judiciary rap for a high-shot post-match just salted the wound. Bellamy's post-game presser was pure class. We just were not good enough, he said, voice cracking like dry earth in a drought. No excuses, just ownership, the mark of a true great. Firing him now? It is like binning a vintage Barossa Red because the cork popped funny. My take. Bloody brilliant for the Broncos, who are crowing like galahs after ending their 19-year drought. Walsh's masterclass, a try, 3 assists, and that game-saving tackle on Papenhuyzen in the dying minutes, was the stuff of legends, and now they have nicked Anderson to boot. Brisbane's comeback kings, rallying from deficits thrice in the finals, have the momentum, while Melbourne licks its wounds. But for the NRL? This is a wake-up call wrapped in barbed wire. Rugby league thrives on loyalty, on blokes like Bellamy who bleed for the badge. Axing him after 600 games, the 4th coach to reach that milestone, sets a dangerous precedent. What message does it send to the next generation? That tenure trumps trophies? That a grand final choke outweighs 2 decades of dominance? Rodski's crossroads rhetoric ignores the path Bellamy paved. 5 grand finals, 3 wins, and a culture that exported stars to state of origin and Kangaroos duty. Eli Katoa, the second rower supreme with 14 tries this year, credits Bellamy for his breakout. Harry Grant, the hooker heartbeat, calls him dad. Lose that. You lose the soul. And let us not shy from the elephant in the rooms, or should I say, the CEO in the suit. Rodski, with his journalism roots and Essendon glow-up, has been a steady hand off-field. Record crowds at AAMI Park, women's pathways blooming, even that Sunshine Coast Lightning tie-in for netball synergy. But on-field, his fingerprints are all over this farce. Whispers say he pushed for a review mid-season, after that 40-10 thrashing by the Roosters in Bellamy's 600th. A night meant for celebration that turned into a wake. Rodski's statue talk rang hollow then, and now it echoes like a bad joke. Is this about fresh blood, or filling coffers for an NRLW push? The women's game is gold, sure, 28% jump in female registrations this year, but sacking the men's coach to fund it? That is like robbing Peter to pay Paula, and it will bite back. Rivals are circling, Penrith sniffing Munster for Rugby Union's Rebel League, Warriors eyeing Pezzett. Without Bellamy's gravitational pull, the Storm risks becoming just another Victorian sideshow, not the main event. Here is where I swing my second unpopular haymaker. Bellamy's firing is not the end of an era, it is the suicide of one. The man mellowed from his gung-ho days. Remember the judiciary fines for scathing sprays? into a grandmaster, blending steel with empathy. His 2025 season was no flop. Second on the ladder, 17 wins from 27, every game a grind. The grand final? A razor-thin 26-22 loss, not a rout. Blame the reshuffle, sure, Wishart in centres after Howarth's croc, but that is coaching chess, not checkers. Rodski's fresh direction feels like panic. A CEO spooked by 2 straight silver medals. Newsflash, Justin. Grand finals are where legends are forged, not factories for flawless finishes. Bellamy's Storm have defined the salary cap era, outlasting scandals and superstars. Axing him now? It hands the Broncos a psychological edge for years, lets the Panthers chuckle from their perch, and tells every coach from here to Halifax that loyalty has an expiry date. Fair go. Let us peel back the purple curtain on what this means for the faithful. Storm supporters, those hardy souls who pack AAMI park rain, hail, or high sun, built this club on Bellamy's back. From the 1998 inception, a news-limited experiment in the AFL heartland, to 3-spat premierships, he has been the constant. Kids in Werribee dream of purple jerseys because of Belly's blueprint. Now, uncertainty breeds apathy. Memberships might dip, crowds might thin, and that vaunted culture? Fractured like the heart emoji storming Twitter. Fans are not daft. They see the suits prioritizing profit over passion. Rodski's statement dripped with platitudes, immense gratitude, lasting impact, but where is the spine? A press conference with Bellamy front and centre. Not this cold email to the troops. It is UN Australian, mates. We do not bin our battlers. We back them through the blowtorch. Yet, in the wreckage, there might be silver linings, if you squint hard enough. Bellamy free. He could consult for the Kangaroos, mentor the next wave, or hell, take a sabbatical with a cold one in Noosa. The Storm? Time to evolve, perhaps. Promote from within, maybe Stevie Kearney, that old captain turned assistant, or lure a wildcard like Todd Payton from the Cowboys. But mark my words, without Bellamy's X-Factor, it will be a rebuild rougher than a bullet's bite. And Rodski. He better deliver. His track record is solid, commercial growth, fan engagement, but this gamble could define or destroy him. If 2026 flops, the pitchforks will turn purple. Wrapping this rant, my final unpopular verdict. Firing Bellamy is the biggest blunder since that salary cap fiasco, a CEO's hubris that could capsize the Storm for a generation. Rugby league needs its icons, not its invoices. Justin Rodski, you have swung the sledgehammer. Now prove it was not short-sighted. To the fans, chin up, the Purple Heart beats on. And to Bellamy, fair dinkum, legend, you deserved better than a boardroom boot. That is it from me today on Unpopular Aussie Opinions. Sling your takes in the comments, subscribe for more straight shots, and remember, in sport as in life, loyalty is the real premiership. Until next time, keep the faith, mates. Cheers.